I don't know why this is news to anyone. I don't know why this is a revelation to anyone. If you have a child, you have a responsibility to raise that child. That child never asked to be born. The least you could do is give them the courtesy, give them the respect of care and support and love and attention. Welcome to another episode of Occasionally Insightful. I'm your host, Elisa, and today we're going through Reddit and we're going to be reading some Reddit posts and commenting on some family drama. I sometimes frequent certain subreddits that are just filled with, shall we say, problematic families, problematic relationships. So there's obviously Am I the Asshole, which I think a lot of people know about. That's not strictly family related, but people often talk about their families on there. But there's also Just No Mother-in-Law, or Just No Significant Other, Just No SO, and Just No Family. There are plenty of subreddits that exist where people vent about their family related troubles, and I wanted to go through some of the most interesting posts that I've come across recently, and we're just going to talk about them because I think, here's the thing, the reason why I go through these posts is because I find them, it's not fun hearing about other people's troubles. Like, it's quite sad, and my heart goes out to the people who have to deal with these issues, whatever they may be. But it is, I think, a good way to learn about what is and isn't a healthy relationship, be that with your significant other or with your family. It's a good way to, identify traits that are toxic in yourself, but also in your family members. It's a way to understand and learn about how to set boundaries, navigate difficult relationships, how to keep yourself safe, and how to protect your mental health and well-being. So that's why I like going on there. But I'm going to be honest, it is also interesting to read about other people's drama. And because my life hasn't been particularly dramatic as of late. Well, it has. Okay, let me rephrase. It has been dramatic, but I'm not going to share that share that information because it pertains to some job applications that I've been doing, and I don't think it's appropriate to share that information right now whilst I'm still going through the application processes, So, with that said, we are instead going to turn to Reddit and turn to the first story that I've picked out for today, which, the title is already so eye-catching. Mother-in-law told me to send my dying mother home and focus on her son. Which, red flag, red flag, red flag. Okay, let's read it. For context, I am originally from Belfast and moved to England about 14 years ago. In those 14 years, I have only been home to visit maybe 7 times, so haven't spent a great deal of time with my parents. I made the mistake of thinking time is on my side, as my parents are 53 and 54. They are no longer together, so my mom doesn't have a partner to look after her. Last month, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 NSCLC lung cancer. I'm not sure what NSCLC lung cancer is, but I assume it's a form of cancer, that has spread to her lymph nodes and pelvis. It's terminal and she's too weak for chemo. I obviously am completely devastated and immediately headed back to Belfast to help care for my mother. I got back to England on Thursday with my mom after being away for 3 weeks. My husband and I eloped in February, but are having the proper wedding for family this week. Ah, yes, because the UK, unlike Malaysia, have somewhat got their life together, and vaccinations are happening, and things are actually genuinely reopening, and gatherings are now allowed. Sorry. Having the proper wedding for family this week. Mother-in-law calls me to ask about how the wedding prep is going and discuss the fact that the seamstress messed up my wedding dress. She then tells me that I need, all caps, need to send my mother home immediately after the wedding, that her son needs my support, that he should be my focus because we have the rest of our lives together, that I need to stay here with him, and I cannot go back to Ireland with my mother, and I have a trip there planned in August anyway. Oh my God, that's not what you want to hear. I shall refrain from commenting until the end. I just agreed with everything she was saying because my mom was sitting on the same sofa as me. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, to the point that I was shaking with rage. Who does she think she is? 4 question marks. Her son needs me? He has spent 3 weeks chilling at home, looking after 2 dogs. I'm looking after my dying mother, trying to organize a wedding totally on my own because he hasn't done anything for the wedding, dealing with 2 chronic health issues myself, and trying to figure out what to do about my 19-year-old sister that lives with my mom, who isn't going to have anywhere to live when my mother passes. Not to mention my mother is going downhill at an alarming rate, and I don't think she will be with us in August. That is so sad. What really annoyed me is the fact that mother-in-law is semi-retired and my husband's dad is fully retired. Have they gone to the house to take out the dogs or look after the dogs while my husband has a break? No, they didn't. The dad said he would one Saturday and then just didn't show up. I, on the other hand, arranged for my friends to take the dogs so he could get a break. I am the one going through the most stressful time of my life. I am the one that needs support. How about you support your son? Am I overreacting? Because I feel like her behavior was heartless, disgusting, and just who the hell does she think she is trying to tell me what to do? I had my husband speak to her because I would have completely lost it if I did. She sent me an apology that was one of those, sorry if you were upset with my comments. So not really acknowledging that she was in the wrong, but more suggesting that I am in the wrong to be upset by them. Oh, really, really not looking forward to seeing her at the ceremony in 2 days. Well, you just love to hear about that, don't you? Okay. This is sad. This is sad. Okay, sad because she is going to lose her mother. Also sad because her mother-in-law is seemingly the most heartless person ever. Okay, I hate it when any mother like babies their son like that. Like, hello, your son is a grown adult. He should be able to take care of himself and to take care of his partner, his wife, like completely on his own. He should not require your input. And if he requires your input, he will ask. If he does not ask, do not give your input. So the fact that she was like, you need to support my son. What? Is he going through a life crisis? Is someone in his life dying? Is he losing his job? Like, how does he need support? Pray tell, how does he need support? I agree. If anything, OP is the one that needs all the support and all the love and care at this time. Like, she is really going through it. Yeah, I'm just going to read through some of the top comments. Here is something that someone suggested you could say. Mother-in-law, when you are sick and dying and only have a few months to live, I'll remember to let dear husband know to send you home and that he needs to support me and not take care of you and not come and see you because he has the rest of his life to spend with me and he needs to focus on me. Lol, not actually, but that is what she is asking you to do. What an evil woman. How dare she? I mean, that's exactly right. Like, if the roles were reversed, she would be like, you can't have a wedding. You all need to focus on me right now. Like, she is just weirdly thinking about herself and not, yeah, it's a very, like, I don't get, is this narcissism at play? I'm not an expert, but like, just that the level of self-centeredness and the lack of consideration for other people's needs, and oh my god, I don't get how people like this exist in the world. Like, I don't get what combinations of factors had to come together to produce someone like her, mother-in-law, I mean. Like what balance of nature and nurture and upbringing and experience, like what combination of experiences came together to produce someone as despicable as this? Like, I can't. Like, the thought, like, does she not realize how heartless she sounds? Like, your mother is dying, go send her home. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see how a perfectly healthy husband is more important than a dying mother. Like, I think it feeds into this whole like long held stereotype, and it's more common, I think, in Asian cultures than it is in Western cultures, but it does exist to some extent all over the world. There's this belief that when the wife marries into the husband's family, she cuts off ties. She becomes part of the husband's family. Like, she is now, quote unquote, theirs, and she loses ties. She cuts off ties with her own family, right? Like, it is like, for example, in, I think, Chinese culture, that is one of the reasons why families prefer having boys over girls, because girls, they will lose the girl once she gets married, right? And she goes to the husband's family. She's no longer responsible for them. Whereas when they have a son, the son will stay with their family and will take care of them when they grow old. So I think perhaps that is an element at play here. Like, you are now married to my son. You shouldn't be focusing on your past, on your family. And instead you should be focusing on your new husband. It's a very archaic and a very messed up perspective on things. Like, the whole concept of treating a woman as a piece of property that gets passed around from family to family is itself problematic. Just the fact that you should expect someone to cut off ties with the people who raised them, to their own blood. Like, I'm not saying that we should. I realize that everyone's situation is complicated and lots of people have problematic relationships with one or both of their parents. But if you want to have a good relationship with your parents, one or both of them, people shouldn't stop you. Like, it's not their place to come in the way. So, as that commenter said, how dare she? Who does she think she is? Oh, I also want to know more about the husband and what the husband is doing in this situation, because, as she said, the husband has been chilling at home for 3 weeks, looking after 2 dogs. First off, unless they're like 2 very high maintenance dogs that require a lot of walking and a lot of attention, then I could see how he would need help. But if they've had the dogs for a long time, and if they're just, they just need a couple of walks during the day, then I don't see why he would really need help looking after them and really need a break from looking after them, unless those dogs need to be played with all the time. Then I could understand. But it's not like these dogs are babies, right? That you're monitoring a baby 24/7. So I don't get why, like, the dad needed to come around to take them for a while, or the friends needed to come around. So that again seems sus to me. Also, the fact, as she mentioned, OP mentioned that she is planning the wedding all by herself, which is something that unfortunately a lot of brides have to do. But I don't agree. I don't agree with that, because, like, it's a wedding between 2 people. And I know that usually the bride has a particular vision about the wedding, and it makes sense why the bride usually takes point, as in why they take point on wedding organization and wedding planning. But the fact that the groom isn't helping at all, or the husband isn't helping at all, is, like, I disagree. Like, you are in this together. You should help in some way, shape, or form. Like, at least offer your services and ask, what are the tasks that don't require any creative input that I can handle? Like, can I make arrangements for, like, can I set up any appointments, etc., etc. Like, it just, the fact that he's not helping at all, I don't like that. And again, the mother is semi-retired, the dad is fully retired. I don't, like, unless the OP didn't disclose something about the husband having some sort of special needs, or recovering from some sort of injury or whatever, like, I don't get why the husband needs to be looked after, and I don't get why this is coming, unless it's why this particular conversation is happening now, because she said that they have eloped, and so they've been married for a while. So why is this conversation about needing to take care of the husband only happening now? Well, maybe it's happened before. Like I said, there are details missing, but I don't get why the husband needs to be looked after. He is a man. He is a grown human. He's not a baby. He's not a child. He's not a teenager. He doesn't need to be looked after. And I think this whole idea of, men need to be looked after by the woman is a very convoluted view of things. They need to have responsibilities. Men need to have responsibilities. Men need to pull their weight. Like, we shouldn't be surprised when a guy does some of the housework. Like, we shouldn't be applauding him for doing the bare minimum, because those should be like things that are just done, like things that are just expected. Like, we shouldn't applaud guys for doing the bare minimum. It's ridiculous that we do, and it's ridiculous that we have to do it. But if you live in a house with someone, it makes sense that you help around that house because you live in it together. I mean, obviously, if you've both discussed things and you're both happy with splitting the chores one way, 60-40, 75-25, whatever it may be, like, as long as you have those discussions and as long as both of you are happy, more power to you, do what you will. But we shouldn't just let men live under a house and do nothing. Like, they live in the house too. They need to contribute too. So again, I don't get why he needs to be looked after. He is not a baby. Oh, I am worried for OP, because if this is how mother-in-law is acting now, long term, when kids are in the picture and etc., like, I think it's gonna be real, like, a struggle. It's whew. That is it's sad in a lot of ways. Right, next up we have another mother-in-law story. This is again from Just Know Mother-in-Law. I forgot if I said the other one was Just Know Mill, but they're from the same place. This one is, my mother wants me to toast her at my wedding. Okay, so it's not a mother-in-law, but it is a mother. Okay, sorry. I was confused, okay? And there were many stories that I read. Anyway, my mother wants me to toast her at my wedding. Background. My mother and I have a strained relationship. She was emotionally, physically, financially, and verbally abusive until I was 18 and able to leave her house for good. I understand that being a single mother is a difficult job full of unexpected challenges, but she failed to seek help when things became too stressful for her to handle and her actions were unacceptable. She has always denied any kind of maltreatment and often resorts to self-pitying language to victimize herself in most situations. Ooh. Last night, my fiancé and I called her to ask if she had decided on a specific amount of money she could contribute to the wedding as a gift. She had told us weeks ago that she wanted to help pay for it, so we just needed a number to continue moving forward with the wedding planning process. I don't subscribe to any money taboo, so I feel comfortable talking about numbers or costs for virtually anything, especially in regards to exploitative industries. Example A, the wedding industry. T. She offered us $20,000. For some, that will seem average. For others, it will seem way too low. For my partner and I, it was much higher than we had originally planned for. What we had originally planned for is seeing that my mom lives on a yearly salary of $50,000. She sold her camper for $20,000 this spring, so I'm guessing that's where the money came from. Anyway, today I get a call from her. She definitely called when she knew my partner would be at work so that he wouldn't be in on the call. She asked me a bit about the wedding planning and then says, do you remember how your father acted at your graduation party? Walking around so proud as if he had any part in raising you or paid for any part of your grad party? That pissed me off. So help me God, if he does that at your wedding, I won't be able to handle it. If he even shows up, I won't be able to handle it. If he even shows up, that is. I expect some kind of recognition. A toast to your mother would be nice. What the hell do I do? My partner is dead set on throwing a party for all of his friends and family, so an elopement is pretty much off the table. I'm considering telling my mother to just keep her money and stay home if she just wants to use my wedding for self-gratification and forced validation. Ooh, okay. So first off, this is like, it's difficult in the sense of, do you take the money and have a nicer wedding and potentially be in debt towards your mom? Or do you politely decline, possibly face some retaliation from the mother, but then you are able to have the wedding that you want? Because here's the thing. I'm going to see if I can find the comments that I've read yesterday. So honestly, here's some of the comments that I think are quite on the money, no pun intended. Now you know that she's not giving the money to you, she's giving it to buy herself gratitude and favor and popularity and obligation. She's giving it so that she can hold it over you and she can lord it over your guests and be like the big deal on your wedding day. She's giving you this money with strings. Yes, I think that's it. Like, she is giving this money because she has her own agenda to fulfill, that she wants to fulfill rather. That was a lot of rathers in one sentence. She is giving this money because she has her own full agenda to fulfill, rather than giving this money as a sort of gift or a donation with no strings attached. And I think that is, I don't want to say common, because I don't actually know how common it is, but I think it does often happen that the parents of either the bride or the groom give money to help the couple plan for their wedding, but in return they expect certain favors, or they expect to have some level of say over how the wedding looks or how it progresses, etc. Like, it's understandable why there is that level of entitlement. But at the same time, I don't necessarily think it's fair. And I think communication and expectations need to be managed up front, and say like, okay, be very clear, like, in return for giving me X amount of money, what are you expecting? Like, do you expect to have a say about how the wedding proceeds and all of these things? I think that is a discussion that needs to be had very clearly from the outset. Because I know that I would rather not accept money from anyone and have the wedding as I want to have the wedding, versus accepting money, having a little bit more financial room to play with, but also having to listen to the opinions of many more people. Like, I would rather keep it small and simple and how I want it, versus something big and lavish and extravagant that was dictated by my parents or my partner's parents, whoever they may be, whoever it may be. Like, I don't like being told what to do in that way. And especially when money is involved, I think it's unfair when money is in the equation, because that sets up another layer to the power dynamic that is already existing, right? It adds more complication. And I don't think it's fair to hold that over somebody. And other comments say, like, this is only her first request. The fact that she thinks her money entitles her to ask this of you is a huge red flag. I suspect that there will be many more such requests if you accept her money. This is not a gift. It's her buying access to interfere in your plans, and she will feel entitled to ask for it back if you don't give to ask for it back if you don't give in to her every desire. Only accept it if you're willing to give in and allow her interference, or if you have the ability to give it back when she becomes unreasonable. She thinks that your wedding will make her feel better about herself, but the wedding isn't about her, it's about you. Sooner or later, she'll realize that, and everything will go to pieces for her. Even if you don't accept the money, you should be prepared. You should be prepared for this. Yeah, I think that, what OP was saying earlier about sort of victim, self-pitying language and victimizing and all that. I think that indicates a tendency of the mother to turn any situation back on her and turn it to be about her. And undoubtedly, she will find ways to make her own daughter's wedding an event about her. So it's a red flag, and I wouldn't feel comfortable accepting. If I were in OP's position, I wouldn't feel comfortable accepting that money. But at the same time, I see the reverse, and I see how, if you want to plan for a nice wedding, it's nice to have that money. And, the fact that it is, she wants to give 20K, her yearly salary is 50K. Like, that is, again, questionable. Like, in the sense of, like, I don't know whether, like, she's giving above her means. Like, she's giving away more. She's giving her daughter more than she should. Possibly, again, to use that against the daughter later down the line, like, oh, I couldn't, like, I gave you, like, I sacrificed so much for you to have this wedding, like, the least you could do is just toast me, like I'm giving you so much. Like, she's basically giving like 40% of her yearly salary, right? Even if she did sell a camper or whatever to get the extra 20K is still a huge chunk of her yearly salary. So it's like, again, I feel like that could be a fact that could be turned against the daughter. I think that, there are, it's, you have to be, in this situation, I feel that OP needs to be firm in some way. Like, if you don't, like, you have to sacrifice something, unfortunately. Like, you have to sacrifice the money, or you have to sacrifice the freedom and the ability to plan your wedding as you want to plan your wedding. And I think, although there are workarounds, for example, like, you could say, like, oh, we're not having any speeches on the night, so nobody's getting toasted. Or we're going to keep the toast strictly about myself and my partner. I still think that ultimately it's a tricky situation. Like, there is no way, like, clearly the problem here is so deep rooted. Like, they've always had a strange relationship. The problem is so deep rooted that taking the money, not taking the money, it's going to lead to some complications. But I think on the whole, I think not accepting the money gives them more control. And I think this mother is the kind of person that if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? Like, if you give them a little bit of leeway, they are going to, like, if you leave the door open a crack, they're going to bust it wide open, and they're going to take every opportunity and turn the whole day into a ceremony about them and a ceremony about how OP wouldn't be the person that she is today without the mother, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah. Is like, she's gonna make that day about her. I wouldn't be surprised if she wore white to the wedding, it's hard, but yeah, I think that is what I would do. I'm not gonna say it's easy, because turning down that money is also gonna, like, it's gonna cause some upset, undoubtedly. Like, she's gonna again make that situation about her, like, oh, you don't want me to contribute, and she's gonna guilt trip them for saying no. But, like, they are in the right. They are completely within their right to turn down that money if they wanted to. So yeah, I think that is the safest course of action moving forward. And that is where we will end that story. Now we've talked about mother-in-law, we've talked about a mother. I kind of now want to move into significant others because Just Know SO is not as active as some of the other subreddits, but boy, it's got some questionable stories. Like, we've been talking about questionable women. Now let's move on and talk about some questionable male partners. This is a topic that I can get really into. Like, I'm not a relationship coach. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a specialist. I don't know much about anything, but I can spot a red flag in other people's stories when I come across one. I'm not sure if I would be able to spot a red flag in my own life, because, we're all blind. We're blind to the people that we're in love with, but let's just get into it. So this post is titled Need to Vent. So my husband is a just no through and through. I'll spare the details for a later date maybe, but here is what happened today. So I have 2 toddlers and an infant. He refuses to be around our infant child, won't feed her, change her, etc. As the mother, he has said that it is my job and only my job. Off to a good start. I usually put the 2 toddlers down for a nap and go grocery shopping with my infant daughter once a week. Since he's home, at least I know if there's a fire somewhere, someone will call 911. He says our daughter won't take a bottle. That's a lie. He hasn't tried to feed her ever. She will take a bottle from everyone. I've seen it. So I have to take her with me. Lately, she has wanted to be fed more frequently, and both times I've gone to the grocery, she has gotten hungry, and so I had to stop and feed her. I don't mind, but it means it takes me longer to get through the grocery. Today, I came home and I could hear him screaming at our 2 toddlers. Doors and windows were shut. I could hear this from my car in the driveway. So I get inside and ask what's going on. He had left a bottle of glue on a top shelf and then left them in the living room by themselves. He does this often when I am home. He goes to a separate room to watch TV or play video games. Well, they managed to get the glue. They didn't eat any of it, just smeared it everywhere. And he was yelling at them because of that. I told him to stop because they are toddlers. They don't understand. It's done. All we can do is clean up and move on. He yelled at me to make them understand that I'm the effing mother. That's my primary job. Well, you know what, Asbut? What an insult. They don't have this issue when I'm home because I actually spend time with them. I don't leave them on their own while I sit on my ass and play video games or watch TV. They are children and they need supervision. I wanted to so badly yell back, but that if he was an active participant in their lives and actually spent time with them instead of disappearing to his own gaming room every single day for hours at a time, they might actually listen to him and behave. I mean, they aren't perfect with me, but they don't get into things they shouldn't either. He could also try cleaning things up when he's done with them instead of leaving them out and just assuming that they won't touch things when no one is watching them. Took all I had in me not to call him out as the poor father he is. Step up or step aside and let someone else be their father if it's such a damn burden to you. Okay, yo. This is why men are trash. No, this is why I don't want to have children, or like one of the reasons why I don't want to have children, because the thought of having to deal with someone like this, someone who is father in name and not in behavior, honestly, just the mere thought wants me to throw myself off a building. I swear, like, I can't deal with this. I cannot deal with the idea of just watching, of just knowing that someone is just watching me raise our children and not helping whatsoever. I cannot deal with that. Let's go through this paragraph by paragraph and talk about the red flags. First off, he refuses to be around our infant child. Won't feed her, change her, etc. Excuse me? You don't want to be around your own child. You don't want to be around your own child. Are you okay, sir? Are you okay? Clearly not. Clearly not. I hope I don't have to explain why that is problematic. You helped create this human. You need to support the mother You are her father. You need to be involved in the raising of your child, overcome any notions of grossness or squeamishness. Just, it's a baby. It's an infant. That is just parental neglect. And I don't get why. I don't get why you would want to have children. If this is how you're going to respond when your child is born. Like, if you want to have children and actually be a part of their life. Like, okay, maybe he didn't want to have children or whatever, but still, step up to the plate, man. Step up. Like OP said, step up to the plate. Like, this behavior is unacceptable. And the fact that he said, as the mother, he said that this is my job and my only job. Excuse me. That again, if I had to explain to you why that is such a problematic view of parental parenting and parental norms, I don't know what to say. It's such an archaic notion that the mother is the one doing all the parenting. I mean, I will admit that in Islam, the mother's primary role is to raise, to make sure that the family is to manage familial matters and to make sure that her kids are raised in, knowing Islam, right. Like the best thing that a mother can do is to raise her kids properly. I mean, I admit that is part of my religion, but I will also recognize that it is not the only job. Like, it can be the primary focus if you wanted to, but if you want to work and if you want to do other things, go do, sure. But yeah, to say that it's only her job, like only my job, not my only, like, there is a difference between my only job and only my job, right? Same three words, different order. The first says my only job indicates that, this is the only thing I have to do, versus only my job means I am the only person who should be doing this. No. Both of you are parents. Both of you should have an involvement in the raising of your daughter. I don't know why this is news to anyone. I don't know why this is a revelation to anyone. If you have a child, you have a responsibility to raise that child. That child never asked to be born. The least you could do is give them the courtesy, give them the respect of care and support and love and attention. Like, hello, this is not news. This is not, this shouldn't be a revelation, right? I also find, moving on to the next paragraph, since he's at home, at least I know that if there's a fire, someone will call 911. I find it just, that's the bar that she has to set. Like, at the very least, if there's a fire, he'll call 911. Like, he might not be able to do anything else, but if there's a fire, he's competent enough to call 911. And the fact that the bar has to be set that low really speaks a lot to their relationship, I think. And it's such a shame that she has to deal with, basically, she's dealing with 4 children. He's her 4th child. He says our daughter won't take a bottle, and then she says that he hasn't ever tried to feed her, which again, like, if he hasn't, I mean, she said that he won't feed her. So don't go and say like, oh, she's not going to take a bottle. She doesn't take a bottle if you haven't even tried to give her one. Like, again, it's just, if you remember last week's episode where I was talking about Nikki and Dan Philippi and how they were not being responsible parents to their bull terrier, this reminds me of that in many ways. Like, you can't, you can't make these statements if you haven't tried. Like you haven't even tried to feed her, and yet you're out here claiming that she won't take a bottle. Excuse me, you and what evidence, sir? What proof do you have to back up your claim? Like, even OP has said, like, she's seen her daughter take a bottle from anyone. So something is sus. Then today I came home and I could hear him screaming at our 2 toddlers. Okay, first off, anyone who feels the need to scream at their children, like scream at them in anger, in that way, scream at them while they're scolding them, I cannot vibe with that. Like, I as the third child, I as the first child, the eldest of 3, you know, if you were the elder sibling, and there's a significant age gap between you and your siblings, like for me, I was 8 years old when my brother was born. If there's a gap, you probably feel like you were the third parent in many ways. I certainly do. And I will sometimes like scream for my siblings, as in to like call them down to help, like come down and help me cook, or come down and help me unpack the groceries, or come down and help me fold the laundry, whatever. But or scream at them like a joking way, but I don't think I've ever screamed at them in anger, really. Like, I've maybe raised my voice, but I don't think I've like full on screamed to the point where you can hear it from outside the house, as she's describing. If you feel the need to scream at your children, I think you need to reevaluate your style of parenting, because I know that, like, I genuinely have a fear of raised voices. I don't know if there's a name for that kind of fear, but it makes my skin crawl. I cannot listen to raised voices, to people screaming in any way. Like, if I hear it in like a restaurant setting, if I hear it in a shop, like I can't, or even like someone over the phone, like I can't, it makes me so uncomfortable. It makes me sick to just hear screaming, like people with like screaming at someone. Yeah, because like when you, I came across a TikTok the other day, and I forget exactly how the person phrased it, but it was something like, don't let your message get lost in the mess. So which is to say, don't let your delivery of a message get lost in how you deliver it. So the message that he could be saying to them, like, it's not okay to play with glue and to make a mess, could have been delivered in a much calmer, much more constructive way than just screaming at them. Like, screaming is not constructive. And screaming, what does it teach you? Like, when someone raises their voice at you, you are focused on the raised voice and not necessarily on the content of the message, right? And you're focused on how the screaming made you feel versus like internalizing the lesson, right? Or the message that's being communicated to you. So I think I'm not advocating to be like pushovers or whatever. Like, I think there are ways to effectively parent and effectively teach your children boundaries and rules that don't involve hitting them, that don't involve aggression and violence. And I personally believe that those are much healthier ways to teach your children than the more violent option. Like, healthier in the long term for their for their mental well-being, and just in terms of raising nicer people. Yeah, and then obviously we get into the issue of him neglecting them. Just toddlers, guys. I've dealt with toddlers, okay, and toddlers can get anything that they want to get. Like, if it's on the top shelf, they will find a way to get it down. Like, everything is climbable. There is nothing too high. They will find a way. So the fact that he just thought that putting the glue on the top shelf would be enough, Like, if they want it, they're going to get it. Toddlers are some of the most persistent people that I've seen. Like, even if they fall down, they're going to pick themselves right back up and they're going to try to climb that bookshelf again or whatever. The fact that he left them on their own, left them unsupervised. Like, I wouldn't baby them. Like, I wouldn't sit behind them and like have a hand on their back as they're climbing or whatever, but I wouldn't be like a helicopter parent. But also, I wouldn't just walk away and not have them in my line of sight, knowing that, especially if I knew that there were like materials around that I didn't want them to play with. Plus the thought of like leaving them for an extended period of time, leaving my children or any children that I'm watching for an extended period of time to go watch TV or to go play video games. Again, hello, you are a parent. And it seems like he just doesn't want to accept the parenting lifestyle. The fact that parenting is about sacrifice, and parenting is about needing to change how you live, because you are now, the priority is no longer you. The priority is this human or these humans that you are raising. Now, I personally don't have, like, I think that parents should be allowed to have their own thing and to have their own hobbies and to have time for themselves. Like, parents are humans too. And parenting is a 24/7 job, right? But like any job, you get burnt out, you get tired, you need to take a break. Like, that's not a sign of you being a bad parent. That's just a natural part of you being a human. So I completely respect the fact that parents sometimes need to take a break. So if a guy wanted to play video games for a couple of hours, yeah, sure. I don't mind it, provided that there are no other major responsibilities that he needs to handle. Like, for instance, like needing to clean the house or needing to get groceries or needing to watch your children. Like, if you wanted to play video games and if you wanted to have time to yourself, you need to fit that in when your children don't require your immediate attention. So when they're asleep or when they're down for a nap or when someone else is watching them, like as in a babysitter, not your spouse, especially if that spouse has been, or your partner has been watching them for the whole day. So yeah, again, I don't agree. You shouldn't. If you are a parent, nothing should be more important than your children, which is part of the reason why I, again, not 100% sure that I want children, because I'm going to be honest, I like having time to myself, and I like not having the responsibility or not needing to take care of a small human. I don't want to take care of a small human, you know? But back to the story. I think the mother was right. They are toddlers, you know, it is a natural part of being a toddler, making messes and playing with things that you shouldn't be playing with. And her approach that, you know, you need to clean up and you need to move on and you need to teach them why they shouldn't do that. Yelling at her doesn't help anything. And like, yeah, the fact that he just looks at her and he's like, just fix this. Like, this is your problem now. Fix it. I hate that I just hate that attitude. That it's my primary job. That's what she said in the post. Like, oh, why is it her job? Why is it not your job? Why is everything her fault? Like, if you hadn't left the glue out in the first place, they wouldn't have been able to get to it. Like, she's right in that. She's right in pointing that out. And you know, her frustrations are completely valid. I would feel exactly the same. He is clearly not an active participant in his children's lives. And yet, like, I don't get why he has children. You know? Like, he's not being a good father. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, like, someone make it make sense, please, because I am just at a loss for how self-centered and oblivious he is to parenting. Yeah. Let's leave it at that for now, because if I keep talking about it, I think I'm going to develop like an aneurysm or something. Like, it's causing me much distress. We'll talk about one more story from Reddit, which is another juicy one. This one is titled, I'm trapped, pregnant, and terrified. This is dark. I read it briefly yesterday, and it is intense. So it talks about abuse. So if abuse is a triggering topic for you, like domestic abuse is a triggering topic for you, goodbye, my friend. Perhaps it's best that you leave us for now, and I'll catch you next week. But for those of you who chose to listen on, let's get into it. This is another post from Just Know SO. My husband, 29, and I, 26F, are married for almost 7 years. He's AD, which stands for active duty military. And since we moved to the US, he completely changed. No physical abuse for the most part, but things escalated quickly. First thing he did was to get me fired from a job, then made it harder for me to get another as he moved us in a car-dependent area. We only have one car. Quickly after, he made me stop birth control. He was obsessed with having a child. He was tracking my ovulation, and we had to have sex as much as possible to make it happen. And every damn month, the pregnancy test would be negative, and then he would guilt trip me, insult me, and treat me like shit for not being pregnant. Since January, I was trying to find a way of leaving, and he guessed or found out I wanted to leave. It's getting worse and worse. Also, after 4 more years, I'm 13 weeks pregnant, and it changes everything. Last month, he moved to another duty station, and he made sure that our new house is in a rural area, even if he had to commute 45 minutes one way. He also installed security cameras. If I leave our house or take a walk, I will immediately receive a call from him asking why I'm out, where I'm going, and to make sure I share my location with him. But then when he comes back home in the evening, he still accuses me of cheating or stupid stuff like that. Then he miraculously locks me in the house for the next day or two. I wouldn't even be surprised if he monitors my laptop as he monitors my phone. I deleted my old posts I made on a different sub when he became suspicious about me leaving him, but I IDGAF anymore. I know you're all like, why did you not leave him before? Well, I have nowhere to go, no family, no one that cares for me. I don't even have my visa nor passport. I naively thought that once I'm pregnant, he would change and become the man that I fell in love with. But I was wrong, of course. It's getting worse and worse. Since he became suspicious, he often tells me that if I ever go missing, no one would ever know because no one cares about me. And this is painfully the truth. No one would even notice it, and he could get away with it so easily. Okay. That was scary. That was so scary. First off, I think this is like something that a lot of women fear, like falling in love with someone who on the surface is Mr. Right, and then you find out that actually he is Mr. Nightmare, and he is just this psychopath who wants to trap you and keep you pregnant and keep you locked up, and he loves you maybe, but really he just loves the image of you that he's created in his head, and he isolates you, and all the signs of abuse are there. Like, she said that no physical abuse for the most part, but for the most part is, I think, still a red flag. Like, he might not be hitting her, but maybe he's breaking plates or breaking doors or just being aggressive, like physically violent. Not necessarily towards her, but around her, and creating that fear. The level of control and monitoring that he is exerting over her is disturbing. The security cameras monitoring her devices, like giving her a call, forcing her to share her location. The security cameras really are what are insane to me. Like, is this a home or is this a prison? Clearly it's a prison for her. Isolating her and not having her visa or passport. Big red flag. She says at the beginning that they moved to the US. So I'm inclined to think that, and also this, I hate to make assumptions, but this post doesn't have the best English, as in the best grammar. And at the start, she says, we moved to the US. So I'm inclined to think that she is not an American citizen. Like, she is from somewhere else. I don't know whether he is as well. But yeah. He has isolated her in the most extreme way possible, taken her away from her home country, probably moved her to a house in the middle of a rural area. There is no probably no public transport, because even it's a car dependent, the US in general is very car dependent. Plus it's a long commute to his work and whatever. It's most probably that she doesn't have a way to, she doesn't have a mode of transport easily accessible. And you can bet that he chose that specifically. He chose this house specifically for that reason. The fact that he was obsessed with having a child, and you can tell that he's not going to be a good father. He's not going to be a good father. He's going to be just like the guy that was in the story before, except perhaps worse. God, we'd all like to think, I feel, that we'd never get into such a situation. We'd never fall for someone who would treat us this way. But I think it's, you never expect it, but somehow it's really easy to end up in that situation, because the whole thing with abusers is that initial infatuation phase. They go hard. The whole love bombing thing, and they seem really serious and really committed, and they seem like a fairy tale that is too good to be true. And then they turn out like this. It's no wonder that so many women just are scared of men and don't trust men, and that level of suspicion comes from stories like this one. It's terrifying. I think the comments on this were very insightful, and I'm just going to read through some of them. Obviously they're in a US context, but I think they are interesting in the sense of what should you do if you find yourself in a similar situation. Yes, somebody asks, do you actually want this pregnancy? Because if I think that's the thing, the fact that she is pregnant, and if she has, if children are involved, it's going to be way more complicated, because that is going to be a literal tie to him forever. But if she can get away now before a child is involved, that is probably going to be a lot. It's still going to be difficult, but it's going to be easier for her. And it's it's going to be easier for her to prioritize her own health and her own safety. But it's how does she escape? How does she escape? She's literally in a prison. And if she didn't share her location with him or something, he would probably drive home and drive around and try to find her. And then if he caught her, what would be the repercussions? It's so scary. It's so scary. Here's a comment that I think is quite smart. If he's not leaving you alone long enough, bring a pen with you at your next OB appointment. When you go pee and leave your sample, leave your full name and address and details about what's going on a paper towel, and leave it next to your sample. Tell them you need to get away ASAP. I think hospitals, as far as like, I'm not sure about everywhere in the world, but I think that most OB/GYN practices, this is one of the things that they check for, like, is everything okay at home? And I think that is probably her best way to get to safety. Requesting for visits. It's like somehow requesting for visits. I think somebody mentioned it. You need to make a doctor's appointment. Once you've booked, send a message to the doctor and tell them you need to see them alone without your spouse. But that request cannot come from you. It has to be from the team, because if she tries to make that request, he'll say no. Yeah. I think that's probably another, like, I'm just commenting on the comments, like, because clearly I'm not the most knowledgeable person about this matter, but I do think it's an interesting matter, and I do think it's something that we all should be aware of. Like, this is abuse, and one of the comments mentioned, like, this is basically a kidnapping. A kidnapping and hostage situation, with the security cameras and locking her in the house and not letting her go anywhere. Like, it's basically a kidnapping situation. So, I think in some ways she really needs to use this pregnancy as a catalyst to get her to safety. It's hard. We need to have conversations about this stuff, because it's a saddeningly frequent occurrence, right? I can't remember the exact statistics, but an alarming number of women, an alarming number of people experience abuse in some form from their significant other, right? And we need to have more conversations about this so that more people are aware of the signs and the options available to them should they find themselves in such a situation, right? Because, like, I think that I have immersed myself in enough of these posts to have in my head a number of red flags that would tip me off if I got into a relationship with someone who could potentially turn into an abuser. I'm not saying that I won't ever get into such a situation. Inshallah, I don't. But yeah, you never know. So it's just, I think it's good for everyone to have knowledge about these kinds of situations and what to do and what to look out for, because awareness is already half the battle. Then it's about putting in place plans and getting out of there as soon as possible, keeping yourself safe, and that's the best that we can do. I really hope that this OP manages to get to safety. I really hope, like, this post is filled with lots of useful comments. I hope that she is able to read through them, and I wish her the best, and I hope that she gets out of the situation as soon as possible. I had more posts that I wanted to go through, but perhaps we'll save those for another day, because I'm aware that we have been talking for quite some time. So that's all we have for today, folks. I hope you've maybe not enjoyed yourself, because some of the topics you've talked about have been quite dark and in times depressing, but I hope that you have learned something. As always, if you have a topic suggestion or any comments, questions, or concerns, send me an email send me an email to occasionalyinsightfulpodcast@gmail.com. occasionalyinsightfulpodcast@gmail.com. Occasionally is spelled with 2 C's, 1 S, and 2 L's. You can also follow me on Twitter @pod_insightful. And, why don't you consider leaving this video a nice comment? Or giving it a like, or hitting that subscribe button. Either way, thank you all so much for tuning in, and until next time, take care, everyone.